everybody, in this video, having done all the stuff that we've done so far with practice problems from the book, I'm going to give you a couple of problems from quiz 3 that are the culmination of everything that we've done since the quiz 2 batch of stuff. So this includes the stuff on conjunctions and the stuff on conditionals revisited. Let's get into it.
Let's look at this first sample problem from here, quiz 3. So here, this is an actual problem from quiz 3, and the stuff that represents statements is already here in all caps. I'm going to underline it just to be even more forceful here. And there's a couple things I want to know. Everything that I've circled is, and this will be italicized on your quiz. So everything I've circled here, any connective language where it means anything like an arrow or a dot or parentheses, I've circled here in some way. Something to let you know, like here's a symbol you need to put up. All the statements here are both all caps, and I've underlined them too. So here's what we got. Let's just go through it. It says first thing is if. That means, hey, there's an arrow. If what? Whatever follows if goes on the left side of the arrow. If someone says they like Star Wars, and we see the word then, that means, hey, someone says they like Star Wars. That's on the left side of the arrow. Then they're a what? They're a geek. Then we see a semicolon. Okay, now I'm using semicolons to let you know that, hey, if there's a semicolon here, look and see, do you have more than one thing on the left or right of the semicolon? If you do, if you have two things to the left of the semicolon, it means it needs to have parentheses. If you got two things to the left of it, it needs parentheses. If you got two things to the right, it needs parentheses. Okay, so this is, I'm using a semicolon to help you know, hey, here's when stuff needs to go together. So let's take a look. To the left of this, are there two things to the left of the parentheses? Yeah. I'm sorry, are there two things to the left of the semicolon? Yeah, there's W, there's G. That means this goes together. And then it says and if. And I told you this. When you see and if, what that means is there's a dot and then there's another arrow. That also means, I said here, if there's a semicolon and there's at least two things on the right, and there's another thing, that means you're going to have parentheses here on the right too. We also know that because of the and if situation. So then whatever follows this if is going to go on the left side of the next arrow. If someone says they like Star Trek, then they're a nerd. That's this problem. So I'll say it back. If someone says they like Star Wars, they're a geek. And if someone says they like Star Trek, then they're a nerd. Okay, so this is an example of a problem on quiz 3. This is an actual problem there. It's not just like, oh, you'll have a problem like this one. This is an actual problem that you'll have on quiz 3. I'm going to give you a couple of others. So this is just a translation one. Okay, let's take a look at another sample problem from quiz 3. So this one says, there's a lot of words going on here, but let's break it down. So everything here that is all upper caps, uppercase, that is stuff that represents simple statements unto themselves, and then the stuff that's circled represents connections. So wherever you see something circled, that means there's going to be an arrow there or a dot or something. It means something. Or even the semicolon here means something to do with parentheses. So let's just go through it straight through, see what we can figure out. This is an actual problem from quiz 3, so I'm giving it to you to give you an example of here's what you're going to encounter. So it says this: Big Kahuna Burger's blowout Hawaiian Bacon Bonanza Burger is both high in fat and cholesterol. So then there's a semicolon. So let's get this far. So Big Kahuna's Burger's blowout Hawaiian Bacon Bonanza Burger is both, let's hear, hey, there's a dot coming. It's both what? High in fat and cholesterol. Then there's a semicolon. Now the semicolon tells you to do this for me. If there's more than two things to the left, you need to put them in parentheses. Hey, there are. And if there's more than two things to the right, you need to group them together too. So what's the next thing we see? If all of the preceding, which means, by the way, all of that is on the left side of the arrow. And then let's see, how many letters do we see after that? E, H, and D, which means that's more than two things. That means there's going to be brackets on the right side. Okay, because that semicolon means everything to the left of this is grouped together and everything to the right of this is grouped together. You see two things, that calls for parentheses. You see three things, that calls for brackets. Four things, that calls for braces. More than that would call for another order of grouping. So we know we've got this. So let's zoom in here to see what we'd have. If all the preceding, also, if all this happens, so all that's on the left side of the arrow, then what? Then we see then if. That means there's an arrow in here. Okay? And then whatever follows this if goes on the left side of the arrow. If you eat it. Then. Okay, so everything that follows this is going on the right side of the arrow. Your heart could very well explode. Moreover, what does that mean? Oh, that's one of those fancy words that means and. Which means, by the way, here's a grouping. Moreover, you could die after one bite. There it is. So this is it. So look, this burger, so all this nonsense, Big Kahuna Burgers, blowout, Hawaiian, bacon, banana, like this thing is high in fat and cholesterol. If that's true, then if you eat it, then your heart could explode and you could die. That's what this is saying. And this is the correct translation for this. So, I've done 2 translations. Now let's look at a translation into a proof that will be on quiz 3. I will stare into the eclipse only if it burns my eyes. Only if. Draw an arrow right over it. You won't mess it up. So then translate it exactly as it is. I will stare into the eclipse only if it burns my eyes. That means E, arrow, B. Line 1. E, arrow, B. Assumption number 1. Okay, period. Line number 2. Burning my eyes is a sufficient condition for needing retinal surgery. Sufficient conditions go on the left side of an arrow, which means line 2 is going to be an arrow. What's the sufficient condition? Burning my eyes is the sufficient condition. For what? Needing retinal surgery. Assumption number 2. And then it says, so, which means this is the conclusion. So we're solving for this. Getting retinal surgery is a necessary condition for staring into the eclipse. Well, necessary condition means there's an arrow, and whatever is the necessary condition goes on the right side of the arrow. So this goes on the right side for E. So here in this problem we have sufficient condition, necessary condition, and only if. Okay, let's go ahead. Now we've translated it. That's half the work on this one. We need to also solve for it. So first of all, let's see. Do we have any arrows not in parentheses? Oh, yes. 2. Do we have a left side match for either one of these? Nope. Any dots we can break apart? Nope. Anything we can bring together? We can bring these together, but we're not looking for a dot, so we're not going to bring these together. So what do? Is our goal an arrow? Yes, it is. So what we're going to do is we're going to provisionally assume this, and then we're going to get this. If we do that, we're good. So let's begin our side quest. Line 3, E, provisional assumption, and we're after S. Okay, so now with this E in play, can we do an arrow out? Yep, there's a left side match right there that gets B. Arrow out 1 and 3. Okay, with this B in play, can we do another arrow out, left side match? Yep, we got one right there. That's going to unlock the S. Arrow out. Where was that arrow that we used? Line 2. Where was the left side match? Line 4. Great. And look, we got the S that we sought to get. So side quest is done. So then what we do is we zoom out and we can say in line 6, hey, if you get E, if you have E as a thing, you will get S. And we can prove it. Arrow in. Where did that start? Line 3. Where did it stop? Line 5. And thus, this problem is done. This is a problem that's actually on quiz 3. And let's take a look at one more. That's just a straight up proof, no translation that we have to do. What we've got here is this is what a proof will look like on quiz 3, just a straight up proof. Not everything's laid out. We're going to have to lay it out. But this is the problem. You got this one. This is assumption number 1. This is what these commas mean. Assumption number 1, assumption number 2, assumption number 3, assumption number 4. Solve for this. So let's lay it out. Line 1 is just J by itself as an assumption. Line 2 is K dot L, assumption. Line 3 is going to be J arrow, brackets, parentheses, K dot L, arrow I. close brackets, assumption, and then assumption number 4. I arrow H. And then it's solve for H. That's what we're solving for. So get that out of this. So let's see. First of all, do we have any arrows not in parentheses? Let's do the work. We got 4 things in play. We got arrow out, and in, and then arrow in. Any arrows not in parentheses? Yeah, line here, line 3, line 4. Do we have left side matches for either of these? Yeah, line 3. We got it right there. So we can go ahead right now and unlock the right side here. So this is going to free it from its brackets. We get K.L, arrow I. That's arrow out, 3 and 1. So this is a new fresh arrow. Okay, so for this one, do we have a left side match? Yeah, we do. Line 2, there's K.L. So line 6, we can say we unlock the I, because here's an arrow. We got a left side. We got a left side match. We got the I. That's arrow out. The arrow that we used was in line 5. The left side match was in line 2. Now, with the I here, can we do another arrow out? Left side match. Yeah. 4 and 6. We get H. That's what we want to get. We get H. Arrow out. Where was the arrow that we used? Line 4. Where's the left side match? Line 6. And without an and out, without an and in, without an arrow in, this problem is done. We're good.
All right, that's a few sample problems from quiz 3, and thus ends all your quiz 3 material. What I'm going to start going over in the next batch of videos are the stuff we're going to do for quiz 4. That's going to be on negations. See you next time.